So you're having a hard time thinking of cool stuff. And the harder you think about trying to make cool stuff, the harder it is to make cool stuff or think of cool stuff. I know all about creative fatigue as an artist. I have dealt with it my whole professional life. I still deal with it today. I got good news, I got bad news. Number one, I'll start with the bad news. Creative fatigue is always going to exist. You are always going to have to struggle with it or figure out how to overcome it at points of your life. It's not something that you just learn a simple trick to and then it's just gone. At the end of the day, creativity is a thing that has like a health bar to it, right? Like the more you use your creativity, your health bar goes low and low and low until you get to the red spot of the bar, and then you're just like, I can't think of anything. But the good news is that you can definitely improve this skill. You can put systems in place where you're not really thinking about it. You're not having to mitigate how much creativity you're using and how low you're draining that creativity bar in your brain, right? Creativity, all it really is it's just brain power, right? Creativity is just imagination. It's taking one idea, doing some stuff with it, and then sending them out the door as a completely repackaged new idea, right? Part of my brain, how it works really good is to think about things as other things. Maybe that's like a core trait of like a creative person or something, not to sound like a douchebag, but I like to think of creativity as like an endurance sport, like sprinting or something, or, you know, maybe not like the shortest sprint, but like fastest person to run a mile or something, right? Like there's an element of how potent your creativity is, how original your ideas are, but then there's an element of stamina to it as well, right? Like how many times can you work at a high level? So I love using the running example for people to understand better, because you can be a person who runs really slow, but they never get tired. So over that mile sprint that you're doing, you might actually have, even though you're very slow, you might have a better time than the average person because you're just not tiring out. You don't really slow down. You just kind of, you know, work at a level 6 the whole way there, and then you end up in the front half of the pack because you don't ever get tired, right? And then there's other people who might be like the fastest sprinters ever, but they have no stamina for it. So right out the gates, you know, they might just freaking get way ahead and then they move really, really slow, right? So finding the combination of having really potent, original, creative ideas and the ability to kind of maintain that pace. And that's the magic, especially when you're working on some kind of creative, artistic trade or profession, right? Like personally, I'm a professional leather crafter. For me, I do basically like 1 to 2 projects a day. So every single day I have to do something creative. I have to try and make something that is so cool that the person receiving it tells their friend about it, right? Like if you're if you're a tattoo artist, right? You're gonna have people coming in. You can just, sure, you can crap out generic designs. If somebody brings you in a piece of paper, says, hey, I want this tattooed on me, just tattoo this thing on me. Takes no creativity, but there's no real payoff, right? You're just kind of copy pasting an idea versus being able to say, hey, look, I'm bringing you this piece of paper. I would like this thing tattooed on me. And you go, hey, why don't we try and take the thing that it is you want, maybe flip it around, do some things, add to it, whatever, and then come up with this new idea, and then they're going to be way more happy about it. So especially when it comes to some kind of artistic trade, you're always going to want to try and be as creative and kind of like artistic as possible. Most of the time that is going to propel your career forward, because as an artist, your biggest asset is your art and your art style. So you being able to use that creative part of your brain and build that muscle up and train that skill is going to be ultimately what makes you the most successful. So there is like a money making element to what would be considered as success as well, right? Like if you're a woodworker, sure, you could make really cheap, you know, stools and crank them out and make 1,000 of them, and then you make a ton of money and boom, you're successful that way. But if you're watching this video, that's probably not you. You're probably the woodworker who's going to create some kind of ornate sculptures and coming up with these unique ideas that brings you success via your creativity and your artistic abilities. Which is how I got successful, which is why I'm going to talk about it, right? So for me as a craftsman, when I think about any kind of craftsman or artist professionally, whether you're a tattoo artist, fine dining chef, like even landscapers out there can create art, beautiful, creative, you know, landscapes. So now to answer your question, how do I overcome creative fatigue? For me, so number one is I try and take the amount of friction off of having to just like dry start a creative idea and come up with something that, you know, nobody has ever thought of, plus your customer's gonna like what it is that they have. So, right, I'm not a person who just kind of makes whatever it is that I want. Not only do I not like doing that, because I personally like taking taking custom requests and then making them something cool that the person wants. So right away, square one, with every customer that I have, I take their wants and wishes to consideration. You know what I mean? Like, let's say somebody comes to me with a list of 5 things. I go, boom, I have 5 principles. Automatically, I'm not having to create ideas out of thin air. Boom. Step 1 of my ordering process, I already have building blocks. I don't have to like create stuff out of, you know, literally create thoughts that have never been thought before, because I have, boom, let's say 5 things that the person wants. So what I do is whenever somebody brings me their 5 things, let's say I go, I like idea 1, 2, and 4, and 5 is all right, but I really hate idea 3. So, hey, I know you want your 5 things. I really hate idea 3. Idea 3 isn't gonna be cohesive with the other ones. So boom, that's cool. Now ideas 1 and 2, those are great. Let's lock in ideas 1 and 2. Those 2 things are awesome. Idea 3, also pretty awesome, but this kind of scraggler number 5. You know, why do you like that idea number 5? Why is it that you want this thing? For example, let's say they're like, hey, I want this Bible verse. And I go, okay, well, here's the thing, is you're gonna have this really good idea 1, really good idea 2, really good idea, 3 here. This Bible verse is gonna like have to be all this letters. Like, letters are kind of tricky to do. They're very time consuming. It's gonna eat up a ton of your budget. I'm not, telling you like your Bible verse isn't important, but is there maybe something that we can do where, rather than a Bible verse, we just stick with like a cross or something? Because obviously your religion and your faith is super important. Let's figure out how to include that without being explicit. And then they go, okay, that's a cool idea. I totally get what you're saying. And then boom, then you lock that in. You change this idea from another idea. You put this here, boom, you get rid of this. And then now you have, boom, four parts that are like perfectly cohesive, perfectly go together. You can spitball ideas back and forth, right? Like, for example, one thing that I do quite a bit of is like, I do a lot of like pinup girls on my projects, right? I might have a person who says, hey, I'm a welder professionally, so I want to put like a welding machine, and I also like your sexy ladies. Can you put a sexy lady? And I'm like, okay, why don't we, rather than just have this like random floating welding machine and this random lady in a bikini that have nothing to do with each other, why don't we marry them together and make your sexy lady dressed like a welder? And then it's like, boom, sparks start flying. Now I have just simply by combining the 2 ideas created a cooler idea than those 2 things combined, right? Like, it's like idea 1 is 1 point, idea 2 is 2 points, but when you combine them, they're worth 3 points because it's that much cooler. That's how my process works. So I try and create structure around my business and my profession in such a way that I don't necessarily have to be trying so hard to create stuff out of thin air, rather than me having to guess and think of what a person is gonna like. I've been doing this for long enough that I know which questions to ask and how to get cool ideas out of my customer's head that they would have never thought to open their mouth up about, right? So I'm sure you guys probably wanted some bullet points of like, hey, just, do X, Y, and Z to like help with your creative burnout. But the only creativity it took me is getting creative with the questions that I ask the customer, right? And then everything just kind of falls into place. Like, I can execute on such a high level, like I could sprint as fast as I can, but there's no drag and no stamina being wasted because all this information and all the creativity is actually just coming from the customer's brain. It's just figuring out how to get me there, right? It's like if I'm sprinting as fast as I can, I jump on my customer's back, They run me half a mile down the road. They waste all their energy, and I just jump off, and I'm like, I'm still good to go. So for me, that is kind of what it is, and especially with creative fatigue, there's part of it where you have to have some kind of faith in yourself that you just kind of know what to do and like what to execute on, right? Like, I really like the landscaping thing as well, right? Like, you can, as a landscaper, you can ask, you know, questions to your customer. You know, what is it that you want? Like, you want, you know, a stone walkway, part in the corner of your yard, like sandy with like an awning, and then on the other part of your yard, you want to do like a vegetable garden or something. And you just kind of go into autopilot doing the thing, right? Like, you just kind of do a cool looking vegetable garden and a cool looking, you know, sandy portion and a cool looking stone trail, and you just combine them all together, and here's this custom tailored backyard for your customer that you didn't even really have to think of or go over the top. And that's the hard part too, especially whenever you're more of in a creative trade, is you get a lot of people who go like, man, I love your stuff, it's so out of the box, I trust you, whatever, like, make me whatever it is you're gonna make me. And it's like, well, I don't want to just make random shit, because like, I have no clue if you're gonna like whatever it is. You have to be able to ask your questions. So I totally started this video out as like how I'm gonna give you guys bullet points, but to me, like, I think I said everything I pretty much need to say. Like, you don't have to come up with stuff that has never been thought of before. You just have to figure out how to connect them in ways that have never been done before. And even if an idea has been done before, when you get really good, this is actually a great point. I did want to touch on this. I'm sure you guys have heard the old adage, good artists borrow, great artists steal. I know when I heard that in my early stages, I didn't understand it. It's crazy. It's like, only until you're like a great artist you understand the stealing part of it. Like, what happens is you eventually kind of develop your own style and your own techniques. It's not that like all good artists are thieves. It's that a good artist can literally take an idea, and because they've developed their own art style, their own creativity, their own, without sounding pretentious, their own like essence as an artist, could literally take an idea one for one, steal the idea like exactly, but because they have their own style and approach to art, that they can literally just take this idea, do whatever they're gonna do with it, and put it right back out, and it will look like a completely unique thing. And that's where you want to get to, where you just work on the creativity and work on the creativity, and then things, you don't have to try so hard. You already have all this experience and practice of being creative. It just becomes second nature. Like, for example, I can get reference from something like, let's say, a cowboy riding a dinosaur. I can literally just take a cowboy riding a dinosaur, do it myself, and it will be completely unique, completely original. Sure, you know, I didn't come up with a cowboy riding a dinosaur, but most likely the reference that was sent to me, that person didn't think of a cowboy riding a dinosaur. But I personally would have never come up with a cowboy riding a dinosaur, because I'm not a big dinosaur person. I never really been into dinosaurs. I don't know why. I would have never done a cowboy riding a dinosaur. But say my customer goes, here's a picture of a cowboy riding a dinosaur, I'm gonna go, okay, I'm gonna do my own cowboy riding a dinosaur. And I'm not, at that point, I'm not creative at all, right? At the end of the day, my customer comes up with that idea, and because I've cultivated so much creativity and artistic ability over time, the creativity is just innate. Like, I don't have to try to think about how to make it look different. I'm just going to make it different. And that's where the good artists borrow, great artists steal thing is, because a quote-unquote good artist will most likely take that reference of the cowboy riding the dinosaur and try and make it look just as close as that as he could to that original idea. But when you become great at doing art and creativity, you just kind of inherently do something new and fresh anyways. So it's definitely a muscle. It's definitely a skill. At a certain point, you will not nearly have to spend as much energy, right? Like, if you're a person who, you know, run slow and loses stamina really fast in this running metaphor that I keep talking about, eventually you run harder, and 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 next thing you know, day one it takes you max effort to run 5 miles per hour. By 3 years down the road, running 5 miles per hour is like warm-up speed for you, right? So it's just a skill that keeps going and going and going. I know I didn't give you a ton of bullet points and tips, but I'm gonna blast a couple other tips that I think are very helpful. Number one, surround yourself by things that inspire you, things that you think are creative, things that you think are cool. If you've ever seen inside of my workshop, I love vintage advertisement and classic American graphic design. So I have a ton of like old school advertisements and stuff like that plastered all over my wall. Album covers, there's a lot of graphic design and album covers, cool perspectives and kind of like art theory stuff. So having all kinds of like posters and signs and album covers and stuff like that keeps me inspired. So when I walk into my workshop, I'm automatically like surrounded by cool artwork and things that get my juices flowing and like things that get me excited. So I'm already automatically in the tone of like, hey, I think this artwork is super cool. I'm gonna do some cool artwork too. Another tip is if you leverage stress and pressure, get yourself behind on some orders, make less money than you want to, you will figure out how to make shit work. Sometimes danger is the perfect incubator for creativity. A little bit of heightened nervous system, something to kind of like make you kind of get backed into a corner and go, what do I gotta do? I gotta do something. So if you really don't like where you're at with your life and your money and stuff like that, leveraging stress and pressure to get a fire under your ass to just start forcing stuff out. Sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't, but that's a great way to leverage stress and pressure to just force things through. Another great tip is just force things through. Even if it's not your best work, you have to be able to have reps that you fail on in order to grow. You're still getting that reps and that pressure, even if it's the knowledge of what not to do next time. Super important. And then lastly is if you are just like in mental shambles and you are like, I have zero will to live and I can't think or want to do anything or whatever, definitely take some time off. Like take some time off to regroup and just relax your brain. I do this, I know when it's coming. It's something that it comes and goes in waves, but I know for me, I literally just did it the other day where I've been busting my ass because I'm so far behind. I'm training a new employee. I'm dealing with figuring out how to babysit and work at the same time. Yesterday afternoon, I was like, man, I'm just tired of working. I need to just stop working. I've done 30 items in the past couple days. Like I gotta just give my brain a break. And I literally just like did shit around the house. I hung up a shelf my wife wanted me to hang up. We needed to replace one of the doorknobs on our back door, so I knocked that thing off, and I got rid of a lot of this mental clutter that is just in the background of my mind going like, I gotta hang up a shelf, I gotta change a doorknob, I gotta take this plant out of the yard, I gotta pick up this thing, I gotta, all these little things that can create that static and noise in your brain. So now that it is the next morning, I'm like, okay, I cut out a couple hours early yesterday, so I'm behind a couple hours in my mind. So now I have pressure to go out there and go, I gotta make something happen because I took a couple hours for myself yesterday. I have to go out there and bang some stuff out, and I come with the vengeance the next morning. Everybody's gonna be different too, right? Like for some people, being out in nature might recharge their batteries, get their creative juices flowing. Some people like to meditate. Some people like to, go on bike rides. Whatever it is, if it helps you, just do it. You gotta just trust yourself and do it. You don't want to just do it all the time, right? Like you don't want to just go meditate in nature for a week in hopes that you come back with one creative idea. You got to build up that muscle, and once you start feeling that fatigue and that burnout and that kind of like, man, my brain is kind of like tired from doing all this shit, that's when you recharge that little creativity bar that we were talking about earlier. So I personally love hanging out with my chickens. I just hung out with my chickens this morning, spent some time in there, and I'm like, man, I'm so grateful for everything. I'm in a great mood. I'm doing this video. I'm banging another thing off the list. I'm like, I'm ready and I'm chomping at the bit. So figure out what works with you. At the end of the day, anytime I do one of these videos, the shortest answer is always just figure it out. It's have the grit and determination to stick it out, have the courage to try new things, and the wisdom to continue doing the things that you feel like work for you. Everybody's playbook is completely different. There's nobody on the planet with the exact same playbook. It's just whatever works for you is whatever works for you, and figuring that out is, at the end of the day, the answer to your problem. I trust you. There's no magic bullet. There's no golden ticket. There's no single answer to overcoming creative fatigue. But I hope this video helped you guys. You know, try and let your customers be the creative ones, and then you as an artist or a professional, trust your instincts to just take what they say and just do it. Just go. Don't waste energy on being creative if you don't have to be, because your customers are already giving you the source material, right? And if you're a person who can't take customer information beforehand, figure out, use a randomizer. Go scroll your Instagram feed and just start bookmarking shit. You know, you don't have to come up with stuff out of thin air to be creative or have good ideas. Hell, this video was a question from one of my followers. I didn't use any creative part of my brain to create this video. I just said, all right, fuck it, we'll pick this question, we're answering this question, and then I'm just gonna ramble for fucking 30 minutes. And I just talk from my heart, just like as if I was talking to, you know, my younger brother or something. So best of luck, you guys. You got this. Keep pushing, keep learning. If you would, please share this video. I'd really appreciate it. Drop a comment. If you're struggling with anything as an artist, a craftsman, if you're struggling with anything on your personal life, your self-development journey, drop it in the comments below. Chances are I have struggled with it, or I have some input. I have survived sexual abuse, drug addiction, being a giant piece of shit to a person who has built an amazing life for himself, wilder than my wildest dreams could ever imagine. I'm just a dude who's been through some shit. I've learned lessons the hard way, and I'm just trying to be the good role model I did not have growing up. So if you like this video, please share it, drop a comment, yada, yada, yada. No matter what you think, no matter how hard you're trying, just remember, you got this.